I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby here with Emmy winner Maya Rudolph, who is double nominated again at the Emmys for her work on Saturday Night Live and Big Mouth. Maya, how did you hear about these two nominations this year?
I was in Ireland, and I was actually in a dressing room at the Brown Thomas department store in Dublin with one of my castmates, uh, Yvette Nicole Brown, and she was at my we were trying on dresses, and she was at my curtain, and she said, Maya, are you dressed, can I come in? And I said, yeah. And she sounded really serious, and then she came in and she said, I just got nominated for an Emmy. And she started crying, and we were jumping up and down and cheering for her, and it was so nice. And she was just like having this really big life moment and going, oh my god, that's so great. And then I went, oh shit, that's right, Emmy nominations. I wonder if I got nominated. And I kind of just went back and I went to get dressed, and then she came back in. She said, you're nominated for the same category. So after that, we were just laughing hysterically, and then I got to talk to my team, and they told me that I was nominated for Big Mouth as well. So it was pretty fun and funny and exciting, and all in just good energy, good happy thoughts.
Yeah, and really beautiful to also have Yvette there too, I'm sure,
Yeah.
celebrating with you. But let's talk about SNL first. I mean, the first six episodes of the season, you actually appeared in not only as Kamala Harris, but even other characters too. So it was almost like you were a full cast member again. Could you describe the energy of those first six for you?
It was pretty amazing to be a part of something like that during everything that was going on in the world and specifically in our country pre-election. I know the show so well that I didn't doubt for a moment that they could pull it off, but it was incredibly um, strange and exciting and kind of um, wild to see this new format of the show being produced, and at the same time we didn't really know how it was going to come out. I mean, doing it in front of an audience was strange. It wasn't a typical audience. It was healthcare workers, and they were masked, and it wasn't as many people, so the sound in the room wasn't the same. Um, but all in all, it was just genuinely thrilling, totally thrilling.
But did you know pretty much ahead of time that you would be in these first six just like every week?
I knew ahead of time that Kamala was going to be a part of the Kamala Biden train of pre-election. We didn't know what the shows were going to be. Just like anything, Saturday Night Live is thought of in real time. It's produced in real time, and so anything that's in the news or um, we're creating all the time. So we didn't really know what the shows were going to be like. We knew we were going to be performing in front of an audience. We didn't really know what that was going to be because that was brand new in COVID. So um, we were performing in front of healthcare workers who were masked. It wasn't as many people as the normal amount of people in the studio, so it didn't sound the same. So it sounded like all of our jokes were bombing. Um, and the entire setup was completely different. So we were all kind of going in blind, knowing that the bones and the structure of what Saturday Night Live is were there, but everything else was kind of like, well, we'll have faith. We'll see how we can pull this off every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course, playing Kamala Harris this season, she has the famous vice presidential debate with her great facial expressions. And, when you're watching something like that or another political event, what's actually running through your mind? Are you already thinking about like how you're going to play with that, or are you just sort of watching it kind of as any of us would?
Yeah. I think like anything, I think uh, kind of absorbing it the way everybody else was and trying to figure out, um, how to how to make it funny because I think the as much as it was cathartic for me, at the same time, it was also sort of like, how do you be a part of this conversation and not screw it up? Um, Not that what I do defines the election, but I think that we're living in a time when so much of what information people are getting or from, is not just from the news, but from Instagram or clips of things. And I think Saturday Night Live has been such a strong force in the conversation politically for a while in terms of how we're all feeling, or fatigue, or frustration, or just needing to laugh. So definitely felt like a like something on my shoulders, but luckily I had done her before, so that at that point that was just like a delicious buffet. Everything she did, I was like, bring it on, just bring it on.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking back on our interview we did with you last year, and you mentioned finding it kind of tough in the beginning to find a take on Kamala Harris. And you mentioned her being like a cool aunt. Has that conception changed at all for you over these few years that you've been playing her?
I mean, she's gotten cooler. The more that I've gotten to know her, I just respect her even more daily. And I'm just her manner, her power, her level of integrity. It's just, she's such a full blown adult that it took a minute to, kind of let that seep in. Like, wow, we really have responsible leaders in office right now. Was kind of relieving and exciting, but also kind of like shocking, because I felt PTSD. Like, I think a lot of people in our country have just like not feeling cared for or cared about. But yeah, she's I was alerted to her great sense of humor early on. So it's just been so cool to even be associated with her, and in the same sentence as her sometimes.
Yeah. And she's mentioned she likes the impression, so I'm sure that's affirming, you know.
Nothing could be
Um,
better.
yeah. Well, can you describe actually working with Jim Carrey as Joe Biden during that time?
Well, we were also kind of doing this. I mean, even more so because I'd had the chance to play her before. He was definitely coming at it as sort of like, okay, what are we doing here? How do we do this? And we were kind of in it together. I mean, I think if anything, the nice thing was I was able to sort of speak to him about how things might play out, just because of being a cast member for so long. Um, but we were both part of this exciting team. I felt like we were like Avengers or something, that we were kind of coming in, through the secret entrance and the like secret bunker, and like doing this. I felt like we were there to like to help, because this was during a time when um, nothing felt very good, and we were, brought in on this sort of like special mission. I wasn't leaving the house, but yet we were brought in on this special mission to sort of like, you know help make people laugh during this really horrible time. And it was cool to be. I mean, for me, it was such a huge. It was a big deal to be side by side with Jim. Like, that was very surreal, and especially in my home, because I feel comfortable at Saturday Night Live, and I feel like, one of the family. And so it was kind of insane to be there with, like, it's Jim Carrey and you, like, you're the other person. That was pretty wild. When we
Yeah.
were doing the promos for it, and it was sort of like, the cool slow mo shots of him, and it was very surreal.
I can imagine. But we should talk about your episode that you're nominated for. Obviously, you submitted the hosted episode. You got to bring back your Beyonce impression where she's on Hot Ones, and you're having to sort of keep cool in that very confident Beyonce way, but then really reach the boiling point. And, those more physical sketches, they always feel the most exciting and the most live to the audience, I think. What are those kinds of sketches like for you as a performer?
It's so fun. I mean, it's so fun knowing that those fun moments are going to happen. I knew that there were going to be certain moments when we could all just kind of belly laugh and just think of, just get out of our heads and laugh hysterically at the goofiness of, a beautiful grown woman chugging a glass of milk. Uh, um, it was those goofy moments were really really fun to play, and I was looking forward to it. I mean, that sketch specifically was one of the ones I was really looking forward to. And I think because I'd been able to play her before, it was fun to nuance it with something completely different, and ridiculous, something you would absolutely never see her do.
Yeah, it was great. I've watched it several times. But I wanted to also ask you about one really nice thing in your episode where, every host does this photo shoot and they have the pictures as kind of the bumper photos during the episode. And you had these two photos that very much were in tribute to your mom, Minnie Riperton, and her album covers. Can I ask, how did those come together?
I think that was originally Mary Ellen Matthews, the SNL photographer and my longtime friend, who has just shot beautiful photos of every single host, musical guest, cast member, for years. She just has a magical quality where she's able to get the person out in their pictures. And when I hosted the last time, which was a long time ago, it was her idea, like, why don't we try the Perfect Angel album cover and sort of like an ode to your mom. And I felt like within that context of like being in this place that was like my place and my where I felt like I grew up, it just felt really safe and it felt really good. And um, so that was like a nice way to do it. And I don't even remember if whose idea it was this time, but it definitely came from that same spirit of like, this is the right place to give Minnie a wink. And it's just, I think when people know you so well and they know how much things mean to you, she's my SNL family, so she knows like that place is like my, it's my special place and like how much meaning it has for me. And so to be there hosting something that was my childhood dream and like having it all come full circle like that, I know that she sees in me how special that is. And so I think she's just the only person really that could bring that out. And she's so good at doing that and then kind of making it its own thing too. And it was just such a sweet moment. And the last picture we took, she said, just like once, she said, and now this one, do this one for Minnie. And we were all kind of like smiling. And it was just really, it just, yeah, it's nice when you can appreciate things in your life. And that place for me is like coming home. And that was all part of a real appreciation and a real love, especially because I think we're all feeling grateful for what we have.
Yeah, I'm sure you felt really appreciated in moments like that.
Yeah.
And just moving over to Big Mouth, your other nomination, something I've always been curious about with your voice work on that show with Connie, the hormone monstress, the very specific voice you're using is so unique. And when you're getting back into like record for a new season, does it take a little bit of a warm up to really get back into that? Or is that voice just so natural that you could just, do it on the spot?
It is now. I
Mm,
mean, we had to figure her out initially, and we had to sort of figure out her roller coaster of the way that she speaks. And then once we started realizing there were certain words, and obviously bubble bath, helped the double alliteration helped bring out this like juicy quality to her voice. Then they started writing accordingly, and then it all clicked. And now she's really easy to fall into, like a little too easy. But it doesn't always happen for voice stuff. A lot of times I have to listen to my other character that I play, Diane, which is Nick's mom. I have to listen to her almost every time because I can't remember how she speaks. But that's what's so funny about it is that when I first started doing Big Mouth, it was to play Diane, and it was to play Nick's mom. And just like any animated show, they said like, "Will you try this thing this week, or will you try that?" And they said Nick's got this hormone monster. We thought Jesse should have a hormone monster, so we just tried it, thinking like, let's just try this fun thing, and we all fell in love with her, and so they kept her around, and now she's my everything. She's my Sasha Fierce, I think.
Wow, it's kind of beautiful.
It's
Wow.
beautiful.
Um, well, just as we wrap up here, I mentioned at the top you won 2 Emmys last year for SNL and Big Mouth. And obviously, last year was a very different kind of Emmys because they were all virtual. And I mean, you've been in the business for a little while, and here you were finally getting, multiple honors for your work. What were your reactions when you found out about those 2 wins?
I was really blown away. I mean, I never really won anything before in that way. I feel like it was a bit surreal. It was at a surreal time. I was at home. It felt really good, and I didn't really know that sensation of like. I guess I've always felt like one of the bad news bears. So like winning, I was like, ooh, winning is fun. Winning is really fun. Like you spend so much time thinking like, it's not about winning or whatever, because the truth is that, being nominated was the best part. I didn't expect to win anything. So it was such an icing on the cake moment of like, and I won. I already got the good stuff. So very cool. Can't compare it to anything else, I guess. But very surprising, very very surprising, and again, a nice thing to like drink to in a very shitty year.
Yeah. Well, I'm just imagining like looking back 20 years of Maya Rudolph of 2000 saying like, "Hey, you're going to win 2 Emmys in 20 years." Playing the future first woman vice president and also a character called Connie, the hormone monster.
I mean, that adds up. That sounds
It
right.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. But for those of you watching, subscribe for more interviews and head to goldderby.com to make your Emmy predictions. Maya, congrats again on your nominations and
Thank you
thanks for
so
your
much.
time today.
Thank you so much.